Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Glad and thankful to have you here. It's Thursday. Gosh, this week is flying by. Are you guys ready for Friday? Yeah. Breaking news, guys. Read the shirt. I don't care. I do care. I care that you're here, and I'm glad that you're joining us live on the show. If you're listening to the audio version later, what are you doing? You're really missing out on the experience when you hang out with people like Kermode Bear, Bruce Birtwhistle, Robbie Theriman, Gwokas, Joni Rankin, South Cott, Will Run Riot, Floby Tenderson, Barney Styles, Frickety, Cecilia H., and all the wonderful crew that gets up early with us. I am glad to have you here, though, if you're listening to the audio version later. Let's get the show on the road because I got some bad news. The show's got to end a little early today. Don't be mad. Oh, come on. They need the studio at 9 a.m. So today, unfortunately, the show ends at 8:30 a.m. Central Time, which puts a little bit of a fire under my butt. We've got two guests to get through, and we want to try and unlock the bonus content, don't we? I think you do, because today's is something real nice. The Wake Up America show's bonus content theme of the week, times that real libertarianism has been tried, or at least some semblance of it. Of course, the modern version that we know today is different than it has been throughout history, but I've been going through historical examples of times that limited government, not top-down approaches throughout history have been tried in government. We've talked about Iceland, medieval Iceland. We talked about was it Carolinian Europe? It was the Byzantines, Charlemagne. Charlemagne, you bring us all to power. Only Joni Rankin will get that reference. Shout it out with the highest power, Charlemagne. And we also talked about Chile in the 1970s when the Chicago Boys went down there. What will today's be? Well, the only way you can find out is if you get those Rumble Rant donations in today or purchases made at apforlibertyshop.com to unlock the bonus content in the amount of $60. I tell you what, I'll make an exception today. We'll lower the amount to $50 because the show is a little bit shorter. So I am a generous God. So appeal to heaven. That's the big news story today. Lefty journos are on the attack because Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's house reportedly flew the appeal to heaven flag. Yes, it's true. No background music, they're saying. Okay, well, that's just what happens on the show because I don't have a producer and everybody hates me. And I didn't appeal to heaven this morning. I didn't say my prayers. So there's no sounds. And I hate myself because I have to do it live right in front of you guys. And there it is. Snipping to a stream deck. Boom. And then 1, 2, 3. There you go. Wokus, thanks for the $10. Says live from the Blue Ridge Mountains. Unlock the bonus content if you can. Yes. Can you hear my sound effects now? Okay, back to the news. Lefty journos are freaking out because Samuel Alito flew an appeal to heaven flag over his house, and it's been they're freaking out.
Please, no.
Joni got the Pippin reference. Nicely done there, Joni. Yes, Alito reportedly flew an appeal to heaven flag, adding to the upside down flag controversy. They can't stand when people appeal to heaven or when they use symbols. Do you guys remember during the Tea Party years when we would all fly the Gadsden flag or when we would go to the Tea Party rallies and the left was saying that it was a symbol of white supremacy?
How dare you?
Thank you, Cecilia. She just donated. This week's mini docs have been interesting. Good. I'm glad you like that. The show is going to end a little bit early today for those who are just tuning in. So make sure you get those likes and Rumble Rant donations in early so we can unlock the bonus content because I have a hard stop today at 8:30. So about an hour and 15 minutes from now, show is over.
No,
Don't be mad.
God. How
Don't be
dare
mad.
You?
Shut up, Greta. I just want everybody to know what's up. So let's talk about the news. Oh, and real quick, Sorry, I'm a little bit discombobulated. At 7:30 this morning, Camellia, who usually joins us at 8, she's been bumped up. Camellia is going to join us at 7:30 this morning to talk about a little bit of more of a kind of Missouri centric story, but I know we get a lot of Missouri people who tune into the show, and former Missouri people who like to tune into the show. Somebody messaged me from Kansas the other day, said they used to live in Missouri and they really enjoy the show. Thanks for texting in, by the way. And the Riverfront Times, which was this lefty news rag that was always attacking Republicans and conservatives here in the state of Missouri, went bankrupt. Oh, they're gone. They shut down. My. We're going to talk about the state of the media this morning. Camellia is going to talk about the Riverfront Times closing down. And we'll tie this into national issues about the blatantly dishonest, smearing, lying, pandering news media, the lapdogs for the left. And we shall say c'est la vie to the Riverfront Times today with Camellia at 7:30. Thank you, Robbie. We've raised $25 towards our $50 goal. We're halfway there, but we're not living on a prayer because if we did, that would be an appeal to heaven. An appeal to heaven is God, illegal.
No, God, please, no.
Shall be no appeals to heaven. And then this morning at 8 o'clock, before we have to go at 8:30, we're going to speak to T.J. Roberts. He was the winner of his Republican primary in Kentucky. He's a Liberty Republican. Thomas Massey guy. Very excited. Jakalia joining us live says, wow, my DuckDuckGo isn't working. Couldn't look up this flag or even Justice Alito. Well, guess what, buddy? You know AP loves you, right? So guess what? The Appeal to Heaven flag is available at AP for Liberty shop this morning. Thanks to my wife, Stephanie. She literally put this up this morning. Like 20 minutes ago, I sent her a message. I was like, Steffi, are you busy this morning? And she's like, what do you need, honey? And she went over there and she made the Appeal to Heaven flag available for you this morning. And I think she priced it a little bit too low, but you know what? We love you. It's an Appeal to Heaven. Get your Appeal to Heaven flag shirts. Piss off a liberal. At apforlibertyshop.com, we've also got the flag as well, Appeal to Heaven flag. Just head on over to apforlibertyshop.com. Get yourself a cool flag. Stephanie, how much money are we making on the flag? Gosh, she's too nice. She prices that stuff so low. Give it up for Steffi. What is this Appeal to Heaven flag? I'll explain it to you in just a moment after we hit the news. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito flew an Appeal to Heaven flag.
No,
yeah.
God! No,
At his New Jersey vacation home last year. No. Can you believe he flew it last year? It's a Revolutionary War era symbol. It's also flown by religious conservatives. No. Not religious conservatives. Alito has recently faced criticism from the New York Times after they reported that he flew an upside-down American flag outside his house after the 2020 election, which is the universal symbol for help, danger, problem, or it's a way for angry conservatives to be like, me, where's my country? Which happened to my country? It's kind of like a boomer thing to do, right? But so the New York Times is like, oh, they're freaking out. They're trying to time to January 6ers because the flag was flown by January 6ers. It's long been an icon of the United States ever since the American Revolution. It was flown at Alito's Long Beach home in July and September of 2023. Could you believe? And they're just reporting on this now. The Appeal to Heaven flag, it's also known as the pine tree flag. It's sometimes also used, and this is how the media reports this, as a symbol of support for former President Donald Trump. Look at that. It's got a pine tree, and it's just kind of, the pine tree is just kind of looming there menacingly. Look at it. It's also used to support religious conservatism generally. You can't have that. And it was used by members of the, quote, Stop the Steal movement, which challenged the results of the 2020 election won by President Joe Biden.
No,
you can't,
no.
Can't have that.
God, please, no.
Brandon Meyer, it's the first you've ever heard or seen of it. Buddy, what are you doing, man? Guess what? You about to learn. You're going to learn today. We're going to talk about where it came from, what it means. It was also flown by some participants in the January 6th insurrection, they say. This is what the left calls it, an insurrection. I'm not calling it that. I'm just reading it. And it was also hung outside the office of House Speaker Mike Johnson last fall. No. I love that you guys have never heard of this. I feel so proud that I get to be the first person to introduce you to a potent symbol of American religious liberty. God bless America. Shall we all appeal to heaven? Dear Lord in heaven, thank you so very much for giving us the gift of life and bringing us all together on this podcast today on the Wake Up America show. We appeal to you. We appeal to heaven. We say thank you for all that you have done for us. We also want to say thank you for the freedom that we enjoy here in the United States, the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, which we are practicing right now here in your presence. Lord, we appeal to you to grant us the liberty to protect ourselves, our lives, our homes, our friends, our family, and our freedom. In thy name and will be done, we appeal to you, to heaven, Lord of all. Thank you very much, and amen. Amen. See, we just ticked off all of the liberals. There we go. Alito, he's going to rule very soon. This is why the left is so upset. He's going to rule very soon on an election subversion case that could result in the removal of some charges against Trump. No! No. Alito has owned this New Jersey house since 2014. Apparently, he was seen there last summer. He flew the Appeal to Heaven flag. It can't be allowed. It can't be allowed. And I mean, they're coming after him for this. The pine tree dates back to the Revolutionary War with its appeal to heaven phrase coming from philosopher John Locke. This is the short version of this story. The phrase refers to a government's people having nobody on earth to defend them, promoting the idea that the protection of their way of life comes from a higher power than themselves, even if that means taking up arms or violence to overthrow unjust rule. Yeah. Robbie just bought an Appeal to Heaven flag from AP for Liberty shop. Thanks, Robbie. See, Steffi, I told you that was going to work out there. So thank you for getting up early, Steffi, and making that happen at the last second. And thank you to Robbie for buying it from apforlibertyshop.com. Steffi priced it very competitively, so head on over there this morning and grab yourself one if you want to anger the left, fly it above your house this summer. Robbie's going to have one down there in Southwest Missouri. Let's see. So the flag has become a symbol of support for conservative causes and Trump, and it's more recently been flown to promote the idea that the U.S. government should be remade in Christian terms, the Time notes. I thought that we were already a Christian nation. So, okay, so you guys ready? I want to give you the long version, but I've only got 5 minutes until I got to go get Camellia. We did unlock the bonus content, however, so you will get to see the bonus content today before we go to Camellia instead of commercials, which is nice. So during the early days of the War for Independence, America faced innumerable difficulties and lots of hard decisions. Unsurprisingly, the choice of a national flag remained unanswered for many months due to the fact that they had much more pressing issues like arranging a defense from the British and forming a government. But a flag was still needed by the military in order to differentiate the newly forged American forces from those of the oncoming British. Several temporary flags were employed in order to satisfy the want, and one of the most famous and widespread standards rushed up flagpoles on land and sea was the pine tree flag that you see, or sometimes they called it the Appeal to Heaven flag. So the flag was characterized by having a tree that was thought to be a pine or a cypress, and the motto regarding an appeal to heaven. Typically, these were displayed on a white field, and they were used by troops in New England, as the Liberty Tree was a prominent Northern symbol for the independence movement. In fact, prior to the Declaration of Independence, but after the opening of hostilities, the pine tree flag was one of the most popular flags for American troops. Indeed, there were recorded in the history of those days many instances of the use of the pine tree flag between October 1775 and July 1776. So some of America's earliest battles and victories were fought under the banner declaring an appeal to heaven. Some historians document that General Israel Putnam's troops at Bunker Hill used the flag with the motto of it. And during the Battle of Boston, the floating batteries, which is the floating barges that were armed with artillery, flew the famous white pine tree flag. In January of 1776, Commodore Samuel Tucker flew the flag while successfully capturing a British troop transport which was attempting to relieve the besieged British forces in Boston. Nicely done, Commodore Tucker. Nice. We just sold another appeal to heaven flag. See, you guys are you're just trying to anger the left this morning. I know how you are. Oh, thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. The pine tree flag was commonly used by the colonial navy during the period of the war. When George Washington commissioned the first ever officially sanctioned military ships for America in 1775, Colonel Joseph Reed wrote the captains of the ships asking them to, quote, "Please to fix upon some particular color for a flag and a signal by which our vessels may know one another. What do you think of the flag with a white ground, a tree in the middle, the motto appeal to heaven? This is the flag of our floating batteries." And in the following months, news spread even to England that the Americans were employing this flag on their naval vessels. A report of a captured ship revealed that, quote, "The flag taken from a provincial American privateer," which is a free market freedom fighter, hell yes, mercenaries fighting for liberty. Privateers were the ones who mostly won the battle on the seas, by the way, for the American. They were basically like, the militia, but like, people who own private ships, that gunboats, like merchant seamen and stuff that they employed, because America didn't have a navy yet. Let's give it up for the free market fighting the American Revolution. Hell yeah. Careful, Austin. As the skirmishes unfolded into all-out warfare between the colonists and England, the pine tree flag, with its prayer to God, became synonymous with the American struggle for liberty. God bless America. An early map of Boston reflected this by showing a side image of a British redcoat trying to rip the flag out of the hands of a colonist. The main motto, an appeal to heaven, inspired other similar flags with mottos such as an appeal to God, which also appeared on early American flags. For many Americans, it might be surprising to learn that one of our first national mottos was an appeal to heaven. So it goes back to John Locke and his influential second treatise of government. In this book, he explains that when a government becomes so oppressive and tyrannical that there no longer remains any legal remedy for citizens, they can appeal to heaven and then resist that tyrannical government through a revolution. And John Locke actually turned to the Bible to explain his argument. Here is what John Locke said: "To avoid this state of war, wherein there is no appeal but to heaven, and wherein the least difference is apt to end, where there is no authority to decide between the contenders, is one great reason of men's putting themselves into society and leaving the state of nature. For where there is an authority, a power on earth, from which relief can be had by appeal, there the continuance of the state of war is excluded, and the controversy is decided by that power. Had there been any such court, any superior jurisdiction on earth to determine the right between Jephthah and the Ammonites, they had never come to a state of war, but we see he was forced to appeal to heaven. The Lord the judge, says he judged this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon." Judges 27. John Locke affirms that when societies are formed and systems and methods of mediations can be instituted, armed conflict to settle disputes is a last resort. When there no longer remains any higher earthly authority to which two contending parties, such as sovereign nations, can appeal, the only option remaining is to declare war to assert certain rights. This is what Locke calls an appeal to heaven, because in the case of Jephthah and the Ammonites from the Bible, it is God in heaven who ultimately decides who the victors will be. Let's hear from Camelia Peterson about this and more. Riverfront Times in St. Louis. Lefty news rag goes down, 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 down. It's going down, 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 down. What's going up? The flag, the appeal to heaven flag. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. We'll be right back. Enjoy the bonus content. Remember, we're leaving early at 8:30 today. Appreciate you very much. We'll be right back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Episode of the Wake Up America show continues the theme of times that real libertarianism has been tried. Welcome to our exploration of the ancient Somali legal system known as Zir, a unique form of customary law that has governed Somalia's stateless society for centuries. First, let's understand the basics of Zir. It's a polycentric legal system where elders, not a central government, serve as judges using precedents to resolve disputes. Traditionally, Zir courts convene under an acacia tree. This setting emphasizes community involvement in justice and can lead to prolonged discussions lasting several days. Zir is fascinating as it operates without any centralized authority dictating laws. Instead, laws are discovered through the resolution of disputes, making it a true grassroots legal system. This system categorizes laws into two types: Zir Gud, which are widely accepted laws, and Zir Tolnimo, specific to individual communities, illustrating its adaptability. Specialization within Zir mirrors that of Western legal systems with roles like judges, jurists, detectives, and police officers, showcasing a complex societal structure. Historically, Zir is indigenous to the Horn of Africa, evolving from the 7th century and remarkably devoid of foreign influences, maintaining its original form over the centuries. Despite European colonization in the late 19th century, where British and Italian legal systems were introduced, Zir remained influential among Somalis, who continued to resolve most matters through customary law. The British and Italian colonizers had different approaches, with the British establishing a hybrid legal system in the north and the Italians applying their codes mostly to foreigners initially. Post-colonization, both colonial powers eventually allowed Zir to handle non-critical local disputes and recognize the application of Sharia law in family and minor civil matters. Today, Zir is most intact in northern and western Somalia. Even under modern governments, its use persists, particularly where the formal legal system is inadequate. In Somaliland, Zir has been integrated into the governmental structure, with elders participating in the upper house of parliament, though its legitimacy remains debated among locals. Customary law often overrules formal judicial decisions in Somalia. For example, a person guilty of homicide could be acquitted if the community settles the matter through Zir, bypassing formal courts. Rights under Zir focus on universal, unalterable human rights and are primarily compensatory rather than punitive, emphasizing compensation over imprisonment or fines. Despite its strengths, Zir faces criticism for suspending individual liberties for communal stability, and its inapplicability outside the Somali clan system can be a limitation. Efforts to refine Zir continue, with conferences and agreements aimed at enhancing protection for vulnerable groups and maintaining societal order during unstable times. Zir also exhibits a clear separation between law and religion, primarily applying in non-family matters, with Sharia taking precedence in familial and inheritance cases. This separation of powers underlines Zir's resilience and flexibility, adapting over time while deeply rooted in communal consensus and traditional practices. In summary, Zir is not only a legal system but a cornerstone of Somali cultural identity, demonstrating the enduring power of community-based governance.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamerica.show.com. Let's appeal to heaven. Give us the most beautiful woman in Missouri to talk to us about the biggest story in Missouri right now. I appeal to thee, the Lord thy God. Let my Camellia go. She's here. CJ, from the road, I see.
Yes, and I would like to say that prayers are not always answered.
No, they are not, but in this case, they were. Thanks so much for getting up early. I know we had to push you out of your regular spot so we could actually have you today, so thanks for joining us a little bit early and making it happen. We appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for being accommodating.
Of course, Camellia. So to what do we owe the pleasure this morning? The Appeal to Heaven flag, we were talking about it real quick during the break, and you told me this story about something to do with like the confiscation of pine trees or something. I hadn't heard this one yet. What is this? What is this related to this Appeal to Heaven story we got going on?
So it had been a little bit since I had read about the Appeal to Heaven flag, and so I was doing a little reading on it this morning, and had forgotten that, of course, the the northeastern pine trees were very sought after, for shipbuilding and other things, because of their height and their quality. And so the Royal Navy had actually, and it was part of a treaty or something. Anyway, but the Royal Navy had basically said that all trees of a certain diameter and height or whatever had to be reserved for the Royal Navy for use in their masts, I believe, for ships. And so they would mark the trees with a big arrow on them. And so there was actually a black market for these trees where, people in Massachusetts would go and they would cut the trees down anyway. Anyway, it got to the point to where, you could be charged with a crime if you were caught, having a tree with one of those arrows on it. And there was a whole rebellion led by a man who owned a sawmill, and it was a whole thing. And there's some really neat history in it.
I love it whenever the left tries to essentially criminalize the symbols of the American Revolution, because if there's, I mean, like on the right, we all fight amongst each other all the time about like stupid stuff. But like, and like, they're trying to say, oh, this is a symbol of Christian nationalism or something like that. But I don't care, because I love the American Revolution, American War, 4th of July so much that like I'm totally going to be fighting for freedom on this one, because they're just freaking out over the fact that Justice Alito flew this at his house. They're trying to tie him to January 6th, and they're trying to like, smear him because he flew the American flag upside down. Like, I'm sorry, but if you want to unite the right, this is the way to do it, right?
Right. I mean, it's so dumb. I was reading like on Wikipedia where it was talking about how that the modern, symbolism for it is tied to Christian nationalism, whatever. And they talked about how that Sarah Palin had it flying behind her whenever she ran or something. I like, so, that doesn't make any sense. Like, just we completely forget all of the original history on it. But
Anyways, we did sell a whole bunch of the flags this morning, so we're going to spread the word today, and I think I'm going to get one myself and fly it above my house this year. So, Camelia, let's talk about the news, the big news here in Missouri, the Riverfront Times. And you spent a lot of time in St. Louis, so you know the Riverfront Times. Their number one job has been to smear Republicans in Missouri, to talk trash about them, and to essentially spread lefty ideas in St. Louis. They went tits up yesterday. Wee, wee, wee. Your reaction?
well, so there's been lots of gloating on the right on social media in Missouri. And different legislators have been posting, pictures of their favorite headlines that were written about themselves, all that outrage, whenever they do things in the legislature. And
Right.
so it's been interesting. The thing is about the Riverfront Times is like, you knew what they were. Like, there was no doubt about that. They weren't out there pretending to be this objective, journalistic publication that was going to be fair to the right. So you knew what you were in for, and you knew what you were getting. And I will say, in their defense, they had a lot of fun pieces too. They would publish things that nobody else would talk about, like, really just kitschy stuff and cultural things. But yes, if
Stop
you
defending the
were,
Riverfront
I
Times,
know,
Camelia.
sorry, like like the Riverfront Times is kind of like the gateway pundit for the right.
Yeah, I guess that is a good matter. But the Gateway Pundit is alive, and the Riverfront Times is dead. I've got the picture up of Elijah Har,
Yes.
with the headline about him. It says that the internet dubs Missouri Rep Elijah Har a closeted a-hole for religious freedom bill. Well, this is the kind of reporting that we had to be exposed to. St. Louis Public Radio reported yesterday that the alternative weekly newspaper has been sold. The editorial staff has been laid off. To what do you think? What would you lay the blame when you see something like this, Camelia? I mean, I've heard some conservatives say things like, "Oh, we shouldn't celebrate things like this because we need a free press, etc." But I mean, give your take on why you think something like this went down, and then I'll give mine.
So a lot of what you're seeing right now in people in the dialogue about this is that the whole go woke, go broke thing. And I don't really think that's it in this case. I do think that the Riverfront Times has, been bought and sold, a few times. I mean, they were just bought, I think back in, well, just last year maybe. So they were, bought and sold just very recently again. And so I think that this is part of the larger struggle of traditional media in general. I think that, the Kansas City Star has struggled, the Post Dispatch has struggled. So, newspapers are increasingly, going down to, maybe one printed newspaper a week or just certain days of the week. And so, and they're not necessarily, and a lot of them are not delivering papers anymore, or you have to pay if you want it mailed to you. So I do think that this is in large part due to just the decline of traditional media and especially print media as we see it now. Riverfront Times obviously, did a lot of things online. They were also, and they're smaller. So they're a smaller alternative publication. So I think that that makes it probably even more difficult for them.
Yeah. My thoughts on this are twofold. One, I wore this shirt today for this story exclusively. Breaking news. I don't care. And one, because they are obviously lefty lunatics, and two, because they put their principles and their politics above their business sense.
Sure.
They make terrible business decisions, and they don't have the luck of NPR that they get to get that continuous source of funding. And it just goes to show that they are unwilling to make the difficult decisions that are necessary to keep a news publication afloat. Because you know what it probably is, they didn't want to hurt any of their editors' feelings and fire people like they should have done a year or 2 years or 3 years ago when they should have been cutting spending. They should have probably gone to a completely online publication instead of trying to go and do the old route of things. They're living in the past. It's like back in my radio days, like social media to them was an afterthought rather than the future that they needed to be like getting ready for. They didn't care about that stuff, and so they're all the old media is just being left behind and being consumed by publications and podcasts and things like what we're doing right now. But I think in the end, it probably means that this is an example of why institutions need to be allowed to fail, so that you can have.
Yes.
It's kind of like when you have brush fires right out in the woods. You have controlled burns, right, so that you don't have massive liquidations like we had back during the housing crisis of 2008. And we had those bailouts and too big to fail, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's just, to me, it just goes to show that the left puts their politics above their business sense. They don't pay attention to the bottom. They talk a lot of shit about capitalism, and it's quite obvious why, because they don't understand how it works.
Well, and you're talking about a St. Louis-based publication, and when you look at the city of St. Louis itself, this is their primary audience, so to speak. And St. Louis has been bleeding population for years now, just even within the last year. I can't remember the number I just saw, but it's astronomical. Like this, I'm not sure, how the city is even supporting itself anymore. And I think, it's been run by Democrats for a very long time now. I mean, they like to blame things on the Republicans because Republicans have been running the state for 20 years. But the reality is that Democrats have been running St. Louis City for much, much longer than that.
Yeah, I'm reading this article in the Wall Street Journal. The real estate nightmare unfolding in downtown St. Louis. The office district is empty with boarded up towers, copper thieves, and failing retail. Even the Panera outlet shut down, St. Louis bread factory. The city is desperately trying to reverse what they call a doom loop. This is a big story. I mean, they had a massive building that had sold for something like $100 and some odd million just like 4 or 5 years ago. Oh, here we go. The price for the AT&T tower
Yes.
was a sliver of the $205 million it sold for in 2006. Its value has been falling for years. It sold in 2022, so 2 years ago, for $4 million. So from $205 million, the AT&T tower, to just $4 million. That city is dying. Why?
Right. Well, I think it's because of their oppressive policies, and their mayor has definitely prioritized progressive ideology and policies. They're very concerned about all of the typical progressive talking points that you hear about right now, but they're not concerned about what it takes to keep businesses, being able to function. One of the big debates that's been ongoing in the state of Missouri for the last few years has been whether or not the state needs to take back control of the of police in the city. And so that there was another push for that in this last session that just ended to do that. And it did not make it all the way through the legislature. But there's still, they're not able to retain law enforcement officers in the city. Their recruitment is way down, and it's because they're in a no-win situation. So I think when you don't feel safe in the city, and because there are shootings all the time. I mean, I don't know that we're at Chicago levels yet, but we're not far away. So I think that it's a whole conglomeration of things, and it all is a result of bad policy for decades and decades.
St. Louis had the biggest drop in foot traffic among 66 cities in recent years. Downtown visits relative to 2019 traffic. I've got a chart pulled up on the screen right now showing St. Louis, comparing it to Midwestern cities and comparing it to other cities between 2021 and 2023. The number of people just walking around has dropped off. And many times when I'm driving through St. Louis, it does feel a little bit like a ghost town. It can be very quiet. The urban decay is massive. The number of vacant buildings there have continued to increase. And in what used to be beautiful neighborhoods, the architecture in many of the places there in St. Louis is gorgeous. If it had a population, it would have a thriving downtown. It has a premier baseball team. It has the St. Louis Arch. It has, restaurants. But what it doesn't have are people who are willing to live there. I know you lived there for a brief period, Camelia. I mean, were you always looking over your shoulder? Because frankly, I don't feel safe typically when I'm hanging around in downtown St. Louis. I wouldn't take my pregnant wife down there. What about you?
No, there are parts of town that I would not go to. I lived in a pretty good area, although it was not. Remember, it was just around the corner from where I lived that school shooting took place. But it's just been within this last year that there were huge homeless encampments set up on the city hall lawn, and the only thing that got them to clean that up was when Kamala Harris came to town. So they'll clean it up for her, but they won't clean it up for the people that live there. So I mean, and things like that are a huge problem. I mean, you have, and I don't know. I know for a big city that this is a problem for every big city. This is a problem for cities in general right now. Like, what do you do with the homeless population and the epidemic of mental illness that contributes to that? But they also make it more difficult in that they are so restrictive whenever there are organizations who want to set up homeless shelters and things like that in an attempt to provide some alternatives for those problems. And it's just that repeated year after year after year of just bad democratic policies. I think it's amazing to me, and you kind of wonder how people can't see it, that with as much as things have gone downhill, people keep voting them back in. And I don't know if it's Stockholm syndrome or what, but it just is. It's kind of mind-boggling.
We reported on a story a few weeks ago down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where a subsectorate of the people there voted to separate from the main city of Baton Rouge. And after lawsuits and multiple attempts, they finally managed to break away from the city. We have a bit of a territorial struggle with St. Louis as well. St. Louis County, St. Louis, the city
Right.
wants to do something similar. They want to control a larger area so that they can get a higher tax base and, by extension, bring their crime rates down just by taking on some territory. We have a similar situation kind of happening out there in St. Louis, don't we?
We do, and that's been a topic of big debate, and is whether or not to merge the city and the county in St. Louis County. It's a little bit different in that, throughout most of Missouri, I think except for St. Louis, you have your cities within your counties. And that's not the case. It's like St. Louis City is its own county per se. And then you have St. Louis County, all around it. And they want to, the city would like to merge with the county, which would be disastrous, for the county, because we do still have some very, Republican areas in St. Louis County, although they're, the blue is creeping out, and so is the crime. But, they're to apply those policies to the entire area would just be devastating, and devastating for the state in general, because this area, to have that all go downhill would impact the state economically in a bad way.
It's a fascinating case study, and certainly one that's very sad because we as Missourians would love to see St. Louis revitalized, but they've just made terrible investments and they do not police the streets in appropriate manners. It's been going downhill for quite some time. Camelia, is there anything else that you'd like to do or say to our listeners before we let you go today?
Nope. I just oh, well, I do have something. So this is more a Missouri thing, but I know we have a lot of Missouri people who watch the show. And for those of you, I know there are some of you that are in the Springfield area too. So I'm going to put on my Americans for Prosperity hat for just a minute here and tell you that across the nation this week, we are doing 20 different events that are part of our Bidenomics campaign. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out, go to Bidenomics.com, because, well, it's maybe not what you would think it would be, but we are dropping the price of gas to what it was the day that Biden took office, which is $2.38. So we're doing that across the country this week, and Fox News has been covering it and lots of other publications. But in Springfield, we're doing that at Rapid Roberts at Sunshine and 65, Friday at 2 o'clock. And so I think that Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft is going to be out there pumping gas for people, along with some other area representatives, and we'll be there. And, we'd like to have you come join the fun.
It'd be great, Camelia. Good luck with that. And thanks for doing it, because I know people really appreciate it, especially when we're all getting hit so hard by these high gas prices. Camelia, be safe out there, drive safely, and we look forward to seeing you again on Thursday, okay?
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a great day. Camelia Peterson, give her a round of applause. Making it work. We're going to speak to TJ Roberts here in about 10 minutes. He won his Republican primary in Kentucky as a Liberty Republican. You love to see it. He'll be here with us in about 10 minutes. But we have a little bit of breaking news, especially for Liberty lovers. Man, this show is just killing it today. We've already got so much stuff going on, and we don't even have enough time to cover it. Big news, breaking news. Javier Milei, the cover of Time magazine. Javier Milei's libertarianism is shaking the foundations of the world. Viva la libertad, carajo. Yeah. You'll love to see it. Javier Milei on the Time 2024 Time 100 list. Fantastic new article just dropped. Javier Milei's radical plan to transform Argentina. You know what? I'm just going to go ahead and read this to you. I've got, let's see how long it is, blah, blah, blah. You and I are going to read it together for the very first time. Javier Milei hates his new office. That's funny. The Casa Rosada, with its historic blue chair and ornate paneled walls, it feels tainted by his predecessors, who he believes drove Argentina into ruin. Yeah, well, yes. Put the pictures up on the screen there. There we go. The Time magazine article. Engraved into, but there is one detail that Javier Milei loves, and that is engraved into a fireplace mantle is a bronze lion, the animal he adopted as a symbol during his dizzying rise to power. Showing me around the vast second-floor space, Milei gestures to a blown-up photo of the lion propped on his desk as a totem of his destiny. He was waiting for me here, he says. Yeah! Milei may be the world's most eccentric head of state. Not long ago, he was a libertarian economist and TV pundit known as El Loco, the madman, for his profane outbursts. The oddities of his campaign often overshadowed the stark austerity program he promoted to pull the country out of its economic crisis. Millet, who has bragged about his past as a tantric sex guru. Yes, no kidding. Brandished a chainsaw at rallies to symbolize his plans to slash government spending. Speaking of, if you haven't seen it already, over at the AP for Liberty shop, Suns Out, Guns Out, we've got our Javier Millet chainsaw tank top exclusively available at apforlibertyshop.com. I think we have it in more than just a tank top as well. Yes, we have a chainsaw of freedom, synthwave tee, and a Viva la Libertad chainsaw poster as well that you can get exclusively at apforlibertyshop.com. There you go. We're reading from the Time magazine piece, just broke. This article just dropped like 20 minutes ago. Time magazine's top 100 people of 2024. Javier Millet made the list, the front cover of Time magazine. I'm reading the article to you now. The unlikely ascendance of a self-described anarcho-capitalist reflects the strength of a right-wing populist movement that has won elections around the world in recent years. God, thank you, Javier Millet. He makes anarcho-capitalist look good. You love it. God, Javier, you're just killing the game. I feel like I can't even do this podcast right now. I'm so excited. I feel like I should just end it. I just feel like I need to go. Oh, shall I continue? Shall I continue? Oh God, there's just so much going on, and I'm so excited. I'm so happy, and I hate that it's at 8:30. Somebody says he is not a libertarian. If he was, shut the fuck up. How's that? There we go. Here we go. Excuse me. Had to tweet. Like his counterparts from Italy to Hungary, Brazil to Peru, the U.S. to India, Millet vowed to dismantle a corruption-riddled state ruled by shadowy elites. Let it all blow up. Let the economy blow up and take the entire garbage political caste down with it, he said during his campaign. But none of his counterparts is quite like Millet. Exactly. With his volcanic temper, mad scientist bearing, he claims not to comb his wild mop of hair because the invisible hand of the market does it for him. And a messianic streak. None of them leads a nation like Argentina, a resource-rich regional power plagued by decades of political mismanagement and economic instability, which has now become a test case for the governing theories of a radical ideologue. Crossing from a laboratory into the real world is marvelous, he says with a broad grin. It's fantastic. God, I just can't take it, guys. It's too exciting. It's too much fun. Oh my God, this next part, guys. Since taking office, Millet has frozen public works projects, devalued the peso by more than 50%, and announced plans to lay off more than 70,000 government workers. Guys.
Do not come. Do not come.
I'm going to come.
Woo! God, I need a cigarette, guys. Oh, God. All right, here's the deal. TJ Roberts is coming up. You want his prime. I've only got 30 more minutes. You're going to have to read the article yourself. I'm sorry. I wish I could stay. I've got to go. I'll be right back with TJ Roberts. I'll ask him how he feels about Javier Millet. TJ Roberts, he's another elected libertarian Republican in Kentucky. God, there's so much going on this today. So much going on. I wish I could stick around with you guys forever and hang out, but I got to go. I'll be right back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Don't leave.
The Cantina crew, this is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there
wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive. And if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Episode of the Wake Up America show continues the theme of times that real libertarianism has been tried. Welcome to our exploration of the ancient Somali legal system known as Zir, a unique form of customary law that has governed Somalia's stateless society for centuries. First, let's understand the basics of Zir. It's a polycentric legal system where elders, not a central government, serve as judges using precedents to resolve disputes. Traditionally, Zir courts convene under an acacia tree. This setting emphasizes community involvement in justice and can lead to prolonged discussions lasting several days. Zir is fascinating as it operates without any centralized authority dictating laws. Instead, laws are discovered through the resolution of disputes, making it a true grassroots legal system. This system categorizes laws into two types, Zeergut, which are widely accepted laws, and Zeertolnimo, specific to individual communities, illustrating its adaptability. Specialization within Zeer mirrors that of Western legal systems with roles like judges, jurists, detectives, and police officers, showcasing a complex societal structure. Historically, Zeer is indigenous to the Horn of Africa, evolving from the 7th century and remarkably devoid of foreign influences, maintaining its original form over the centuries. Despite European colonization in the late 19th century, where British and Italian legal systems were introduced, Zeer remained influential among Somalis, who continued to resolve most matters through customary law. The British and Italian colonizers had different approaches, with the British establishing a hybrid legal system in the north and the Italians applying their codes mostly to foreigners initially. Post-colonization, both colonial powers eventually allowed Zeer to handle non-critical local disputes and recognize the application of Sharia law in family and minor civil matters. Today, Zeer is most intact in northern and western Somalia. Even under modern governments, its use persists, particularly where the formal legal system is inadequate. In Somaliland, Zeer has been integrated into the governmental structure, with elders participating in the upper house of parliament, though its legitimacy remains debated among locals. Customary law often overrules formal judicial decisions in Somalia. For example, a person guilty of homicide could be acquitted if the community settles the matter through Zeer, bypassing formal courts. Rights under Zeer focus on universal, unalterable human rights, and are primarily compensatory rather than punitive, emphasizing compensation over imprisonment or fines. Despite its strengths, Zeer faces criticism for suspending individual liberties for communal stability, and its inapplicability outside the Somali clan system can be a limitation. Efforts to refine Zeer continue, with conferences and agreements aimed at enhancing protection for vulnerable groups and maintaining societal order during unstable times. Zeer also exhibits a clear separation between law and religion, primarily applying in non-family matters, with Sharia taking precedence in familial and inheritance cases. This separation of powers underlines Zeer's resilience and flexibility, adapting over time while deeply rooted in communal consensus and traditional practices. In summary, Zeer is not only a legal system but a cornerstone of Somali cultural identity, demonstrating the enduring power of community-based governance.
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Glad and thankful to have you here. Click that like button, and if you are enjoying the content today, it's your first time here, make sure you click the follow button as well. Join us for our regular schedule. Yes, it's definitely schedule. Schedule. The schedule. I'm having trouble talking this morning. I'm just so excited. I see all these exciting news. I just want to pee myself. I see that Javier Milei is on the cover of Time magazine, and I'm just like fangirling. The Wake Up America show brought to you by viewers and listeners just like you. Looks like we don't have TJ Roberts here this morning. What can you do? Booked him yesterday. Sometimes it's a live show. Sometimes people just don't show up. So what do? What does Austin do? Well, God bless America. Austin is well trained in the art of tap dancing. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to continue to talk about this article that Javier Milei is featured in. He's the front page of Time magazine today. You'll love to see it. Glad to see Brian Esco getting up nice and early. He's from the left coast, the West Coast. Gets up early, joins us live. He's a podcaster. I did an interview with him a week and a half or so ago. I'm going to try and get him on the show. He's got a lot of interesting takes on things. Reach out to him. We'll have him on next week. What do you say, guys? Shall we have Brian on? Yes. Yeah. So anyways, if TJ Roberts shows up, he shows up. But just an FYI, the Wake Up America show has to end a little bit early today. I know, don't be sad, don't be mad. The Wake Up America show is going to end today at 8:30 a.m. Central instead of our usual 9 a.m. time. The owner of the studio needs the studio at 9 a.m. So we're going to end today in about 25 minutes. We're going to talk a little bit more, though, about Javier Milei making the front page of Time magazine. Exciting. For a little bit of trivia on your host here, I actually appeared in Time magazine as well. Not on the front cover, mind you, but actually just on the inside cover. In 2005, I think, I got hired as a model. Not an not an underwear model or anything like that, but I was hired as a model for Microsoft for like selling servers and stuff like that. So I was actually on the inside cover of Time magazine. So not for anything that cool, but as Javier Milei being the president of Argentina. But yeah, it was kind of a cool thing to be like, oh, I'm in Time magazine, pick up a copy. The radical, how Javier Milei is shocking the world. Since taking office, he's frozen public works projects, devalued the peso, and announced plans to lay off more than 70,000 government workers. Good God. And inflation has slowed for 4 months in a row. The International Monetary Fund has hailed Argentina's, quote, impressive progress. He had given an address to the nation last week celebrating the economic miracle of the country's first quarterly budget surplus since 2008. Why can't we have this here? Well, Milei thinks he's pioneering an approach that will become a global blueprint. Oh, please. I'm appealing to heaven here, Javier. Hopefully you're right. He says Argentina will become a model for how to transform a country into a prosperous nation. He tells me, quote, I have no doubt. But of course, Time magazine, being Time magazine, they write that others do have doubts. While Milei vowed the political caste would bear the brunt, Time magazine reports his austerity measures have pummeled ordinary Argentines. The annual inflation rate is still nearly 300%, among the highest in the world. That depends on which rate you're using. Are you using the government rate or are you using the Blue Book rate? You see, the way that people try and smear Milei is they take the statistics that they like to try and use against him while ignoring the situation on the ground. That's why when you tune into the Wake Up America show, and I have Aaron Sepulveda on the show, Bowtied Mara on the show, I've had probably a half a dozen different guests on the Wake Up America show, economists, experts, boots on the ground. Jeffrey Carson was on the show last week explaining the situation on the ground, telling us you're going to hear how it really is in Argentina, not how the mainstream media is reporting like this. Many Argentines have been forced to carry bags of cash for even small transactions. Some stores have given up on price stickers entirely. That was happening before Milei took over. They don't say that, of course. Milei's moves, cutting federal aid. Oh my God, that's amazing. Transport and energy subsidies. Oh my God, that's amazing. And have caused living costs to spike. More than 55% of Argentines are mired in poverty, up from 45% in December. There's another misleading statistics. The mainstream media, of course, has to lie. They cannot have Javier Milei succeed. If Javier Milei succeeds, it brings this whole house of cards down. Our philosophy, our ideology of liberty, our Austrian economic approach, the anarcho-capitalists, the minarchists, people like ourselves, the people who are watching the Wake Up, the 408 people watching us live on Rumble right now, we would be vindicated. We would be ascendant. They cannot have that happen. They cannot allow Javier Milei's experiment in anarcho-capitalism in Argentina to succeed. But by gum, dad gummit, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that it succeeds if I have anything to do with it. That's why when you go to apforlibertyshop.com, you see all of our awesome Javier Milei merchandise. I'm doing everything I can to spread the word. This might have been one of my most successful libertarian outreach tools I've ever used, and I did it through capitalism. Everybody knows the costs would be huge, says Argentina's foreign minister. What we're experiencing, nobody likes it, but there's no other way. Argentina's economy had been bad enough for long enough that the polls show a majority of the nation's 46 million people remain willing to give Milei a chance. That article continues on, but it looks like we're going to get TJ Roberts after all for the final 15 minutes of the Wake Up America show. He's tuning in right now. Give me about 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. Thanks for hanging around. We got TJ Roberts on the line, the Liberty Patriot who just won his Republican nomination for state representative from the great state of Kentucky, one of the states bordering the greatest state of Missouri. TJ Roberts joining us live right now. Congratulations, TJ, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Austin. It's an honor.
TJ, it's a hard-fought victory out there. You had an opponent out there who tried to say you were not a real Republican. Apparently, he thought maybe you might secretly believe in a little too much freedom. Ooh, it's terrifying. But we're happy to hear that you won your primary. And to what do you owe that victory? It was a crushing victory. To what do you owe that victory?
I think I owe that victory to the outpouring of support from the people of this district, primarily. The Secretary of State numbers are in. I was the highest vote getter out of every single Republican candidate for state representative in the entire Commonwealth of Kentucky. These ideas, the notion of that the role of government is to protect life, liberty, and property, it's an idea that resounds with people. As a result, the people, they piled on to help this campaign. I'm the only state rep candidate in the country with the endorsement of Dr. Ron Paul. But further, there were so many other endorsements that came in as well. You were a supporter throughout this race. Congressman Thomas Massie endorsed. Every single state representative in Boone County, which is the county that my district is in, except for one, endorsed, and the one who did not endorse simply just stayed neutral. There was just support throughout the entire country for this race as well, because it just was one of the first races of a Generation Z young American patriot that truly understood the role of government. And the race is just, it was a night and day compare contrast between me and my opponent, where it was the difference between, are the people of Boone County going to actually have representation? Are they actually going to have someone fighting for their rights? Or are they going to get another representative who's just going to fight for special interests? And I think that's really what it came down to. And fortunately, we made sure that that message was heard at the door. And the people of Boone County, thankfully, they chose liberty on Tuesday.
Love to see it. TJ, you and I go back a long time. We've known each other for quite some time. You know, I cut my political teeth way back in 2008 when I first started in politics, because I was inspired by Congressman Ron Paul, who endorsed you. And I've been, an activist for limited government causes ever since then. And I think the first time we met may have been at a YAL conference, maybe 10 years ago or so. And it's been exciting to watch your career as you went to become a law student, and now you're a lawyer. You ran for office, you were in hard-fought primary, and now you've won. You've taken liberty ideas mainstream. But there might be something in the water out there in Kentucky, because you're not the only Liberty Republican out of Kentucky. Thomas Massie also in a hard-fought primary, not necessarily because there was any threat from the electoral competition, because there was a lot of outside money that was spent to prevent Thomas Massie from going back to Washington, D.C. He's another inspiration of mine, and I know of yours as well. Kind of a fascinating study seeing how much opposition there was to Thomas Massie. What do you attribute to his victory?
I think that Kentucky's 4th congressional district is an America First district. And when they're trying to smear Congressman Massie for doing exactly what they sent him to Washington, D.C. to do, which was to fight for his district, to fight for the people in that district, and especially to fight for their constitutional rights, and to fight for fiscal sanity when we're almost $35 trillion in debt, and you're trying to condemn him for not spending enough money, that's not going to work out. It's going to backfire. We could talk about the candidate quality of his opponents. I mean, we could talk about how one of his opponents is an individual who's currently serving probation for pursuing and attempting an illicit interaction with his underage nephew. But what that shows is Thomas Massie is beloved, and serious people do not run against him, because he is a hardcore freedom fighter. And frankly, the people of this district, especially in Northern Kentucky, which is the hub of the 4th district, in my opinion, They love him. It's the birthplace of the Northern Kentucky Tea Party. It's the birthplace of the Liberty Movement in so many ways that we see happening right now.
You're making me jealous, TJ, because we've got some Liberty Republicans here in Missouri, but I think we've only got like one even in the state legislature and none in Congress, which is quite concerning. Well, I guess we do have Eric Burleson, but he's a little bit quieter on these things. You're kind of a rip-roaring out there, fiery Liberty Republican, which is more along in my vein for my taste. So you're going to go to the state house, the legislature in Kentucky. As a Liberty Republican, what do you expect to have to contend with there? What are your plans? Do you have any legislation that you'd like to introduce? What can you do to make Kentucky great again?
So I'm going to go in reverse order. So I'm going to start with the last one that you asked. The number one priority bill, I'll be introducing this on day one in General Assembly 2025, is a constitutional amendment called the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. It's already the law in one state. I want to make Kentucky the second Tabor state. It would make it to where before any level of government in Kentucky, state, local, city, county, any of it, before they can raise your taxes, before they can put on new taxes, it would have to pass a referendum of the people first. So if a majority of the people say that we don't want this new tax, whenever the ballot initiative tells you what they're taxing, at what rate they're taxing it, and where that money is going to go, and the people say thanks but no thanks, it doesn't happen. I believe in consent of the governed. It's one of those, in my view, 1776 common sense measures that state governments need to focus on. What do I believe I'm going to be contending with? Well, Frankfurt is a mini swamp, and Frankfurt is broken. We do have, unfortunately, we do have a rhino problem in Frankfurt. That said, I think a lot of it comes from the special interests. A lot of it comes from the taxpayer-funded lobbyists. Fortunately, we already have a champion by the name of Felicia Rayburn who's fighting to ban taxpayer-funded lobbying. So there are fights going on with this as well. Further, there is going to be resentment of me, I guarantee you. My opponent used to hold this seat from 2018 to 2022. He lost in 2022 when Representative Steve Rawlings beat him by a 37-point margin. He didn't learn his lesson the first time. He tried again. House leadership, the caucus, did run TV ads against me. So that said, they had their pick. Boone County chose against their pick. There has been this trend of retaliatory politics where Liberty Republicans have lost their committee seats as recently back as 2023. That said, that can only go on so far. I want to work with people to make sure that Kentucky becomes the freest state in the nation. And I don't care if I agree with you 100% of the time. I care if I agree with you in that moment on that specific issue. If you are with me in making Kentucky freer on a bill, I will be working with you no matter what. So that's what I think I really have to deal
TJ,
with. Yes.
we've only got a few minutes left here before we got to run. So I guess any tips or advice for other Liberty Republicans out there or people who are trying to make a difference? Is there any words of wisdom that you might offer to us so that we might be able to try and mirror your results elsewhere around the country? Or is it just that you got lucky and Kentucky just happens to like Liberty Republicans? Anything you can share to give us a little bit of insight?
Oh, even whenever the Liberty Republicans first won their major wave in 2022, it was described by the media as a blip on the radar and that it would pass. It's not passing. This is a movement that is growing. It's happening in rural areas outside of Northern Kentucky, and it's growing nationwide. So my advice is double down, stick to your guns, never back down, but also don't just focus on pure comms entirely. Field wins elections, especially when you're talking about state representative races. Me and my team, we knocked this district at least 5 times. And that's not including volunteers whose doors I was not keeping track of, right? We did what was necessary to raise the money to make sure that we had an effective mail program, but stick with the issues too. Because truly, I think most Americans, I think most Republican voters in primaries especially, acknowledge that this government is way too big And we need someone who's going on the offensive to make the government smaller, not just to slow down the growth, but to actually cut the size of government.
TJ, there was probably some time, and I'm not patting myself on the back. There might have been some point in as we crossed paths that you might have said that I inspired you to some certain extent. But I think we have now gone in different directions, and I can now say that you inspire me, and I will fight for liberty even harder thanks to the inspiration that you've given to people like myself. Congratulations, TJ. We're all admiring you and looking forward to what you do in your career in Kentucky, and hopefully that will only be the beginning. Is there anything else you'd like to share or plug or say before we let you go today?
Well, other than the fact that you continue to inspire me by making sure that the message gets out, that's all I really have. But thank you to everyone who has supported me throughout this race. The fight continues into the general election on November 5th, 2024. I do have a general election opponent, so if you'd like to support me, feel free to check me out on my website. It's votetjr.com. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, my Twitter is @realtjroberts. And you could just find me by searching my name on Facebook.
That's right. As one of your endorsers might say, the revolution continues. Congrats, TJ. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's TJ Roberts. What do you say? Can we get another round of applause there for TJ? Man, I hate that we've got to end this show early, but we've got to, and I'm sorry. I know, and we've got great numbers over there on rumble.com. I know many of you are like, you're disappointed, or actually it's probably a little more like boo. Oh. So the Wake Up America show's regular schedule is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a 2-hour live talk show. We're only ending early today because, well, they need the studio at 9 a.m. That doesn't happen very often. Sometimes it does. But today they need the studio. So tomorrow, though, is a special day. Freedom Family Friday. What does that mean? That means that my smoking hot redheaded libertarian wife, Stephanie Peterson, is going to be joining us live. She's pregnant. To take her to a doctor's appointment today, actually. We're now at that point where it's like every 2 weeks we got to go to the doctor and stuff just to make sure that everything's safe and baby Hazel's going to be okay. But she's doing fine. She kicks a lot. I've been like talking to her and singing through the belly button, which has been kind of fun and funny. But Steffi will be on tomorrow. And of course, my brother, Justin Peterson, which most people, I think, appreciate. Do you like Justin Peterson on the show, my bro? Freedom Family Friday. That's the day we kind of switch things up. Things get a little goofy. Things get a little weird. Sometimes a little PG-13. Sometimes a little bit rated R, if you know what I'm saying. Oh, don't be mad, Dad.
How dare you?
So make sure you come back tomorrow for Freedom Family Friday and click that follow button on the channel so you won't have any problems finding us again. The show kicks off again, 7 a.m. Central. Adjust for your local time zone. It is Wake Up America, after all, so we go from coast to coast. Check your local time zones. Join us here tomorrow morning. Click that follow button, and of course, exit through the grift shop at apforlibertyshop.com. Thanks, everybody, for buying the Appeal to Heaven flags this morning. We appreciate that. You're helping to support a growing family on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
expanse of time, a year might seem like a mere moment, but oh, what a year it's been. In September 2022, Austin and Stephanie Peterson embarked on a journey to wake up America. They began humbly, with just 20 souls tuning in, learning, listening, and though challenges arose, like the looming shadow of YouTube demonetization, their spirit never waned. And now, thanks to you, thousands rise with the sun to join them, to listen, to engage, to be a part of a community. So here's to you, and to wake up America. For memories shared, for friends made, for the journey ahead, and for never, ever forgetting to rise and freedom. Happy anniversary.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Is the outdoor your home about as exciting as a library? Then spice it up and unbore your space with our custom metal signs. Crafted with love and a bit of libertarian magic, you can customize your own metal sign at ap4libertyshop.com. So head to ap4libertyshop.com, customize your own metal sign today.
Welcome to a world of vocal discovery at Peterson Voice Studio. I'm Justin Peterson, here to guide your musical journey. Envision a place where your voice reaches new heights, where every note tells a story. We embrace all singers, from the enthusiastic shower vocalists to aspiring stars, ensuring each voice finds its unique rhythm and tone. Are you ready to elevate your voice? Visit petersonvoicestudio.com and sign up for remote lessons tailored just for you. Let's begin this melodious journey together.
Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP4Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks, just pure patriotic pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at ap4libertyshop.com.